All right, guys, we are here live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Dell with the Mega Sports, and you got a sneak preview already of a great show that we have planned today. We have got two of our Mega Wellness heavy hitters in the game. It is Dr. Scott Jablonka and Dr. Clay Sankey from TruMotion Therapy. They are on the show today. We're just trying to get everybody connected here. We've got a great show. We are going to learn more about how they got into the field that they're in, why they got into it, learn more about their businesses and their brand and their following that they've really cultivated over the last several years. And then, of course, we're going to answer some questions that we curated from some of our great customers who submitted some just great, insightful questions that we'll go over. It's going to be a great show. Again, I'm Dell with Mega Sports. This is the Mega Sports Show. I'm going to go ahead and bring in right now, let's bring in Dr. Scott Jablonka. Hey, Scott.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Well, of course, the folks out there in a mega nation world or a mega sports world know you as the Carolina Movement Doc. And of course, in the Charlotte world as well that you're in. But more importantly, we also know you as our host of one of, if not our most popular podcast that we launched called the Mega Sports Move More Podcast. Of course, you're our host and you're killing it, man.
It's been fun to do that podcast. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and the fact that I can pretty much pick my topic and or choose topics that people ask questions about. Usually, if I get a ton of questions from my athletes, there are tons more people out there that want to know the same answers to the same questions. So it's good that I'm able to kind of touch upon that and give that knowledge to the world. It's free. All you got to do is listen. So I've been having a blast with it. I've gotten tons of good feedback, and I have a lot more people that I want to bring on the show as far as my guests. I got a good following. I got a good group of friends in the Charlotte area as far as my movement professionals. So tons on the docket for there as soon as I put it together, man.
Yeah, I mean, you, of course, I have to say, not only was it a gift to find you, because we reached out to you just saying, this guy's killing it. He's got some great content. I love what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're presenting. And then I remember reaching out to you and you're like, I've got a radio background and like, I've got this. I can totally do this.
Let's do it. Yeah. Radio voice, not a radio face.
No. I mean, like, so from the podcast standpoint, we literally thought, let's just give this guy a podcast. Let's let him talk about movement, let him inspire people, let him take all that great knowledge and advice that he has on his page and just spill it over the airways, if you will, of iTunes and Spotify and all these other streaming platforms. And you've been killing it. You, of course, do a show where it's just you sharing great advice or answering questions that you know that you've been dealing with or real life scenarios that you've worked with. And then you brought on some amazing guests. I mean, I love to say that it's just, in that little zone or that fantastic zone of Charlotte, but you've really brought people from all over the country.
Yeah. There's so many people with a lot of different perspectives, and it's the best way to learn is not to get one person's perspective or one niche. It's good to dabble and venture outside your comfort zone to learn more stuff. And as I'm interviewing these individuals and I'm talking to them and they're educating the public, they're educating me as well. So I'm always down for learning, and if I'm learning, I know you guys are too. So it's been fun to bring them on, and it's been quite insightful. At least it's changed my practice a little bit here and there too, which is great.
Yeah, I will say the feedback that we get is people love how you break it down.
Yeah. Tend to break it down here and there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, before we bring Dr. Sankey in, I know we're waiting for him to get connected. We just had him, and then we just want to make sure that his internet connection and everything's working well. But I want to share some great news. If you give me a nod that I can share some great news on your behalf, I'd love to do that.
Go for it. Lay it out, my man.
So the main thing that I wanted to start with is the fact that I want people to understand when we reach out to great folks on social media that are sharing great advice, when we reach out to already busy experts and busy professionals and entrepreneurs, we know we're intruding on their lives. We know we're taking some time out of your busy day with your family and your profession and your career, and yet you still make it all happen. And now your personal life is even getting even bigger. So I won't delay anymore. So I remember a couple of weeks ago, you telling me I've got some big life changes happening. It's all good. Don't worry about me. It's all good. I'll share it. And then you were able to share it, and you are now welcoming twins into your already family of 3.
Yeah, and including the dogs, it's going to be a family of 5 now. So we were expecting another child. We got the news from the doctor's office. Up on that screen, we saw 2 in there, so we got 2 on the way. So that's certainly changed our lives, clearly for the better. We just got a lot more shuffling around to do as far as planning for the arrival of these guys. So it's going to be fun. Life happens, man. You just got to roll with it, and we're going to have a good time with them. Luckily, my wife is a freaking rock star. So when it comes to kind of getting everything organized and handling it, she's the go-to person when it comes to organization. So we're going to be in good shape. We'll be fine.
I was going to say, we're a fan of your wife as well. I know she's putting on big events. She's in the fitness community. She's doing big things. So I do not expect her to slow down.
Yeah.
I just know that the Jablonka family is going to be just building this empire.
Yeah, build an empire. Oh my goodness, that's a good way to put it. But you're probably right when it comes to that.
There you go. Well, I see NC Eat and Play over there saying, I'm going to go ahead and start listening. Now, if you don't know NC Eat and Play, she's a big foodie. She loves going outdoors. She loves staying active. So I promise you, and by the way, she's a mother of 2. So she'll be following your journey along the way, because I'm sure life always spills into profession. So as you're talking and as you're sharing good advice, you're always connecting with your followers and your listeners with real life stuff. And,
Absolutely.
one of the things that we loved about you is just being on social media, sharing great advice. And that, of course, is why we also love Dr. Clay Sankey with TruMotion Therapy. We're going to go ahead and bring him in now.
Come on, Clay.
There you are.
There we are.
There you go. I'm not going to say we thought you got scared, but he was just here. Maybe I told him I was going to ask him this question, and then all of a sudden you got away. You just
I went to go say some prayers for Scott because his life is. That's awesome, man. Congrats.
That's
Thanks,
right.
man.
That's right. Yeah. So just Charlotte's getting overpopulated. That's all I'm going to say.
Not bad.
Yeah. Well, so we got a chance to spend some time with Scott. So, Dr. Sankey, let's talk about you. Obviously, you're I would say you're not, I don't want to call you a grandfather, but you're pretty tenured with our relationship in Mega Wellness and with the Mega Sports. You're one of the first ones that we actually reached out to. I will actually just confess and say that I probably would not have created anything Mega Wellness or even started this venture for Mega sharing content if it were not for you to inspire and use as a format of explaining to everyone this is what it can be, because you do it very well. And of course, I'm talking about your Instagram page at TruMotion Therapy. You've done a great job. So I'd love to start just kind of reminding people how that all started. How'd you get into chiropractic work? And then, of course, what brought you all the way through to becoming such a phenomenon on Instagram?
Well, that's really nice of you to say, and I'm really humbled to be a part of the Omega family, and I truly believe in everything that you guys are doing. So I feel it's a privilege for me to be a part of what you guys are doing. And yeah, happy to be here today with the great minds of Dr. Scott Jablonka as well. So I'm a chiropractor in South Charlotte in North Carolina. I have a little small chiropractic clinic called TruMotion Therapy. We specialize in really the treatment of any kind of musculoskeletal injuries or pain, and anything from back pain, sports injuries, TMJ. And we do that with chiropractic care, but we do that with other techniques as well, dry needling, rehabilitation. And really we do what we can to get people out of pain without the use of drugs or surgery or invasive techniques, and give them the tools to live healthier lives. And then on the side, I like to do a little self-promotion on social media, just giving some good, hopefully some helpful advice to people, whether they're in the Charlotte area or not. It's just like the podcast, it's free, but it's benefits me as well to connect with people like you guys.
Yeah, and of course, you're getting picked up by not just Omega Sports. I mean, you're getting picked up by other bloggers, other websites, other competitors. I mean, you're in demand because your content is so rich. And you're so good at explaining certain things. And I know I've jokingly called you this in the past, maybe not on a show to your face, but I've said you're the chiropractor to the running stars of Charlotte. Because I know in the Charlotte running community, you've been, you create quite the following. And then, of course, there's just this two-way relationship with a lot of the major players in the running community. So you've done such a great job out there.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I like doing this kind of stuff, but it's my passion, just like with, with what you're doing with Omega Sports, what Scott's doing with, the Carolina Movement Doc. It's my passion. And, I like to connect with other people and and share that information that's out there.
Yeah, and you too are busy. I mean, you've got a thriving practice. It's been busy. I know we've gone through the COVID days, and of course, things continue to keep getting interesting. But you've really maintained safety. You've maintained a protocol with your staff that you really haven't skipped a beat. And I applaud you, because as an entrepreneur, it's been scary for all of us, right? But it's been great to see that all that hard work, that side work that you say you're doing, has such engagement that people continue to keep supporting you.
It's a testament to the Charlotte community, just wanting to, be out there and, support each other.
Yep, absolutely. Of course, Omega, we feel that all the time. All right, so Dr. Jablonka, we talked a little bit about kind of the story of TruMotion, Clay really building a ground game there in Charlotte. Of course, you as a physical therapist, you've worked in physical therapy for quite some time after getting out of school, and then you chose Charlotte as a destination for you. And then, of course, you're at other practices, and then Carolina Movement Doc became like this itch that you just had to scratch.
Yeah, it was an itch. I was pretty much voluntold to do this, to be honest with you, because I was doing a lot of just free advice and treatments on the side just to help athletes. And after word got out that this guy is really kind of helping me, it just kind of spawned into something, and I felt it was almost my duty to actually turn this into something that's going to benefit the community as a whole, especially the movement community. So it started as Carolina Movement Doc, just a one-off thing, just to kind of get athletes kind of used to work with me. And then when the pandemic hit, it almost kicked it into overdrive. It had the almost the opposite effect of other businesses. People started reaching out to me because they wanted kind of that one-on-one care. A lot of a lot of businesses were closing down and shutting their doors when my doors were open, still sterile, still clean by protocol standards. But athletes still needed to move, and I can certainly respect that. So just because the world shut down, they wanted to be fitter, stronger, faster. They wanted to be better humans, better athletes, and I was all for that. So they just kind of kept building and building and building, and as word of mouth traveled, and as my social media following started to build, Carolina Movement, it's just for lack of better terms, and not to toot my own horn, but it's really exploding into something that's definitely worth venturing down. And hopefully down the road in the near future, it's going to be a full-time thing, and we can continue to help the Charlotte area, and hopefully the Carolinas just keep moving, get better, get faster, get fitter,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're big about moving. So, and again, a nod to Dr. Sankey, really helping us understand kind of, I think for the first time I heard motion is lotion. And I remember thinking, wow, he's so, he should be a marketer. And then I realized that's almost a must in the medical community and the expert, field that you guys are in, that you really just staying moving. And that, of course, was even more important during times where we were told not to do certain things, right? And the world kind of responded with, well, I'm still going to go outside. I'm still going to run. I'm still going to seek out, experts to help me one-on-one when I can. And the world, I think, is, surviving through it. And of course, businesses and leaders and experts are finding ways to pivot and make sure that they're meeting that demand. So to even start, just bravo to both of you guys. Applaud you guys for really working through that and really being on the positive side of all of the negative kind of medical things that are happening in the world. You guys are on the positive side.
I appreciate that.
So I'm gonna throw out, this isn't on my list, by the way, as a question, but I just want to throw out this kind of fun little jab here. I got a chiropractor all the way to the right, or all the way over. I've got a physical therapist in the middle. What kind of beef do you guys really have?
Why don't you go first, Clay? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go first. Del, you sent over some questions for us to answer that some of the viewers submitted in. And I'm reading through these questions and thinking about how I'm going to answer them. And, I know Scott. And I'm thinking in my head, like, yeah, Scott's going to answer the same way I'm going to answer this. Like, I know he's going to say this, and I'm going to, say the same thing. So that beef exists out there between chiropractors and physical therapists. I think probably on the fringes of our profession, but in the mainstream, I don't know if it really does. And I don't know what the public's persona is, but I don't have any beef with most physical therapists. I do with some, but I also have beef with some chiropractors. It's just the way that they practice, I would say. As long as you're getting people better and treating them in an ethical manner, have at it. PT,
There's a
chiro, I
comment.
don't care what it is.
Yeah, there's a comment, you can't see it, but they want you to spill the tea. With who? Who do you have a beef with?
We'll never go down that road.
So Scott, is that the same for you? Obviously, right?
Honestly, it's 100%. And as you know, I kind of self-dubbed my profession and lumped it in with chiropractors, even massage therapists and athletic trainers. You know, we kind of should rebrand ourselves as movement specialists as opposed to just separate PTs, chiros. And I actually made a post about this probably last year that says, you know, I'm injured. Who do I see? A PT, a chiro? My answer is yes, go see somebody. The reason being is, you know, and I asked a lot of individuals, and one of my buddies who's a teacher up in Seneca Falls in New York at the chiropractic college, I asked them, can you send me your course syllabus? I want to see what kind of courses you take. And obviously there are courses that we as therapists, we didn't take, but you wouldn't believe the amount of overlap as far as education and experience. Chiros, at least coming out of school, definitely more hands-on, hugely more hands-on. But as we develop more experience and even personally, when I first met Dr. Clay Sankey, just talking for 5 minutes, I knew that we were on the same page. 100%. Whatever gets people moving, gets people better and out of pain without surgery, without drugs and unnecessary tests and measures and doctor's visits. I think we all win. And as far as, you know, are we competitors? I'd say no. I don't think we're competitors. I think we're playing for the same team. We're just helping people get better. So as far as we are concerned, I think there are so many clients and so many athletes to go around that I don't think there's enough of us, to be honest with you. So I have zero beef with chiropractors, even massage therapists too. So that beef exists only in the eyes of the public. And I think it's kind of misled a little bit.
All right, cancel the ad with the showdown that I was going to run after this. Yeah, I think that's important. And the other thing that I know we might want to talk about is that certainly if someone were to stumble upon, and hopefully we're driving them to you, your brand, you know, it's, you know, they may qualify you, like Scott, for instance. You very well obviously have been very big on promoting weightlifting and CrossFit and, you know, that athlete. But you don't just work with athletes. I mean, you really do work with folks with injury and need for recovery and, you know, couch to 5K folks. I mean, you really do all of the specialties. And then the same thing for you, Dr. Sankey. It's not just, oh, I need to go in and get an adjustment. You really work with injured folks. You work with folks that need true support.
Yeah, because, you know, with healthcare, I see it as a continuum, right? From conservative care to, you know, more invasive care, right? And the vast majority of people fall within that early phase of the continuum, not needing significant amount of drugs, certainly not needing surgery. And if we can catch them in that net, you know, that's the goal. It's going to save them money, time, potentially harmful side effects, and it's going to save, you know, our medical system money as well.
Yeah. And I know Scott's laughing or smirking because he's got a podcast on that same subject.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we fell right into that. You know, the fitness, wellness, sickness continuum of health. And Dr. Sankey nailed it on the head as far as if we can catch them in the early stages, get them not just well, but as fit as possible. Again, and you hear me say this time and time again, it's tried and true. Fit people were harder to kill. And then they go on to say generally more useful, but we'll just kind of say, well, we're just harder to kill. Stronger people last longer. And the same is holding true nowadays. With everything else that's going on, I think it's safe to say that's kind of a staple when it comes to the movement specialists.
I remember when we recorded that was actually part of your test, right? Your test.
The test, first one, right?
And you had all of us there, all the producers. We were sitting there, and I remember going, "Did he just say that it's hard to kill someone? What did he just say? Like, play that back." And then we listened back to it, and it became, you know, instantly a big popular episode for you. And we continue to keep referring to it. I mean, it really made a lot of sense. I remember you said, grab a sheet of paper and draw a line. Yeah. And I remember doing that. And I remember it making so much sense. And we've talked about it at Omega, and folks are now using some of that to say, okay, here's where you are, and let us help you get to that next level.
Yep. And I love it. And I keep referring back to that as well, because every time I get a new client that comes in who's a little bit nervous about, what we do, are we going to lift weights? Are we going to squat? Are we going to pull stuff from the ground? I say, well, yeah. And the justification is, I'm here to get, better. Your pain's going to come down. But once we get your pain down, we're going to make you strong as all get up, because stronger people are harder to kill. We don't want you coming back to me. Ultimate goal is never to have to see me. But if you do, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it well.
Yeah. And nobody who's watching needs to comment on which three of us would be easier to kill. I don't want to hear that. And then I just want to make sure we do a shout out, podcast.omegasports.com. That's where we have all our podcasts. Of course, we've got our Move More podcast. We've got our women's only podcast, which is phenomenal. And then we just brought in a fantastic Matt Clancy, who now is handling our endurance podcast for all those triathletes out there. Because of course, when we say movement, we're not joking. We want you swimming, biking, literally running hundreds of miles. Because why not? There's enough time in the world. All right. So, Dr. Sankey, I'm going to start with you, because you really, of course, anchored a lot of our Mega Wellness. And because of the Charlotte community, and which you so eloquently spoke about earlier, that's a highly active community. Of course, we've got two great locations at Omega Sports in Charlotte. Talk about what that community really is. I mean, for folks that maybe are not familiar or not in Charlotte, what does that mean to you to have this great community of highly motivated, fit, or athletic folks that are just moving more?
They say you're like this sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with or whatever. So if you're surrounded by people who are just into fitness and are motivated and everything like that, it just drives you to be better as well. And, having local resources that can push you into moving more and whatnot, like Omega Sports, like Carolina Movement Doc, like us. I mean, you're surrounded by the best. You're just surrounded by people who want the best for you, and that's what the Charlotte community feels like. There's always run groups going on. There's always CrossFit competitions, beers and burpees.
Yeah. Beers and burpees.
Right? Beers and burpees. Yep. Always stuff like that going on that just pushes you to go outdoors and move your body and be healthy. And I think it just feeds into Charlotte's vibrant culture.
Yeah, I think what you said is really interesting, because at Omega, certainly we are connected, intertwined, like bonded to the running community. And when we started talking with Dr. Jablonka, it was very clear we're missing some of those hardcore athletic, grind folks that really want to take their fitness to the next level. Of course, we are talking about cross training and CrossFit and weightlifting. And I will tell you, big shout out to our influencer, Deanna, in the market, in the Charlotte area, who is a runner, the best run club ambassador you could ever imagine, the best Omega ambassador you can ever imagine, or influencer. And then, of course, she does CrossFit, and she is a nurse, and an ER nurse at that. So she has been really pulling on the strings of Omega to make sure that we're doing more in the CrossFit or the cross training community. And then, of course, Scott comes in, and I had to tell him, I was like, Scott, there's a plan, but it's not overnight. So if you're interested, just know that it's coming, but I can't guarantee it's going to happen fast. But I need you to help us build that connection. And man, have you done that? And of course, you are a sought after, influential brand when it comes to that CrossFit and that weightlifting community that's out there that Dr. Sankey was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head as far as you're missing the boat if you're not at least trying to tap into the CrossFit weight training community. I mean, we're not going anywhere, just like the running group isn't going to go anywhere. If anything, both groups are only going to get bigger. And believe it or not, there's a lot of kind of cross-contamination between CrossFit and running. I think people are kind of seeing the benefit of both. And I think this is a great opportunity, a great avenue to really blend those two cultures together. Because if you talk to anybody who would kind of identify as a runner or identify as a CrossFitter, you'll understand that that community is so closely knit that it's stupid. If you can influence one, you can influence the rest. So if we're not tapping into that culture and really helping them, or at least provide them with the resources that they need, I think we're missing the boat. So to kind of reach out and really kind of dive into the CrossFit world was probably a genius move. And I think it's going to pay off in the long run. I'm just really happy to be a part of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and of course, through you, I recently just announced that we are supporting the CLT Foundation. which of course is the founders of Beers and Burpees, which Dr. Sankey talked about. A phenomenal event. Really, it's just a celebration of getting out there with folks, enjoying being, just athletic and pushing yourself all in the spirit of helping children with, various ailments. And I remember talking to the founder going, I don't know why it took us this long to connect.
Right. Yeah, Mike is a good dude. I'm an ambassador for Beers and Burpees on October 2nd down in Indian CrossFit, just south of the border in South Carolina. If you don't know anything about this, if this is your first time hearing about Beers and Burpees, go online, research it. Instagram especially, CLT Foundation. This is an all-day party. You don't even need to do anything active. As long as you come and enjoy yourself, help raise a little bit of money. I'll tell you what, this event raises a ton of money for one of the greatest causes. And they're still doing a lot more around the Charlotte area too. So they do a ton of fundraising. I'm psyched to be a part of this because I'm going to help with the judges. I'm going to be a part of it. And my gyms are bringing a heck of a lot of teams to this area too. So this is one event you really don't want to miss. I'm still excited that Omega and CLT Foundation teamed up to make this happen too. So that's going to be a partnership that I foresee happening for years to come. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're very blessed to be a part of it. We are all about good neighborship, and the way we look at it is it's really about supporting the people who are putting those things on. So we're doing it a little different. My good neighborship strategy is not just be on the front end of the giving; it's to also go behind the givers and make sure that they're being taken care of as well. But I do want to also just if you don't know this, Scott, I don't know if you've been over to TruMotion Therapy, but Clay obviously was a runner, and if you hear his story, you'll hear about his running career, his illustrious long-haired running career that he had in college. But if you go to TruMotion Therapy, there's a fully decked out gym, and if I remember correctly, Clay, you said that you are working out early in the morning before the practice even opens up. So clearly running is not just a one exercise, one trick pony. You do the full gamut.
Yeah. Running is my background. It's my first love. I could never stop running, but in order to be able to maintain a healthy body while running, while putting in those miles, while treating patients and just living life in general, strength training has to be part of the recipe. So it's definitely an integral part of my routine, and something that I found probably a little bit later than I wish I would have. But it's certainly a part of my routine, and I'm lucky enough to have a gym and some weights in the place that I work, so it makes it pretty readily accessible. And then it's part of our treatment plan for all of our patients as well, is to get lifting and moving and using their body and confident in movement.
Yeah, if you're in the Charlotte area and you have not been to TruMotion Therapy, it's not just a couple of weights. He's got a nice setup there. It's a beautiful location. You should be very proud of it.
Thanks. Yeah, we're happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So guys, we are going to jump into some of our viewer questions because nobody wants to hear all my questions. Let's jump into some of our viewers, customers' questions as we've curated them for you. And just a reminder, you are not allowed to answer exactly the same.
Oh, well, this show is going to be really boring then, isn't it? Gosh,
you should, when Clay answers a question, Scott, you should be like, I object. And
all right. We'll make it fun just for the sake of the show then. No, we'll answer honestly. It'll be good.
Yep. All right. So John from Charlotte, okay, in your hometown here, says when choosing, so this is actually, Clay, this would be a great one, Dr. Sankey, for you. When choosing a chiropractor, how important is it to know what techniques they perform before making an appointment? Aren't they all the same? And I actually remember thinking this was a really interesting question because I probably assumed that every chiropractor is exactly the same. But there's a lot of research and a lot of different blogs and a lot of different social media pages out there that really talk about certain chiropractors have this technique and this technique. So can you talk about different techniques? And then what do you have?
Sure. So every chiropractor receives basically the same base education. Go through school, get the same degree and everything like that, and they graduate with that degree as a doctorate in chiropractic. From there, you can go on and take any additional extracurricular techniques, master's degrees, anything like that you'd like. So when choosing a chiropractor, if you got back pain, like you tweaked your back doing something, you slept wrong, irritated your neck, something like that, most chiropractors should be able to take care of that just fine for you. If you've got something that seems a little bit more complicated, a sports injury, you sprained your MCL, you've got tennis elbow, you should probably start doing a little bit more research and look into chiropractors that might have some soft tissue techniques, some rehabilitation techniques that may be more geared towards what you're dealing with. That being said, if somebody has taken the time to go through additional education, that could be a sign that maybe you're going to get a little bit better care with them because they're working hard to hone their craft. Not to say that there aren't amazing chiropractors who went through school and that's what they've done, or that there aren't maybe some not as good ones who have taken a lot of extra stuff. So I think it depends what you're really looking for. But there are plenty of different techniques out there. There are soft tissue techniques, rehab techniques, techniques that we use here like dry needling, certain types of rehab and whatnot. So plenty out there. I would just do a little digging, see kind of just vibe with what I'm looking for. Am I an athlete looking for someone who can work with athletes? Is it maybe a simple case of back pain where I can get a quick fix? So I think it depends a little bit.
Okay. Well, I know for folks that may be interested in the Charlotte market, you've got your techniques listed on your website, TruMotionTherapy.com. Because I remember first hearing about or learning more about the cupping and the dry needling and all the things that you do. Because I remember thinking, wow, you do a lot more than just adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really because somebody comes in with back pain, and back pain's that's not really a diagnosis. That's just something that's just describing where the pain is. So there can be many different causes, and the person on the table, person A with back pain is going to be different than person B with back pain. So to have different approaches to address each person is going to be so important. Some people, I'm a chiropractor, some people just don't want to be adjusted. Some people shouldn't be adjusted. So I need to have other ways to get their joints moving, to get them feeling better than just, cracking on their spine.
I think that's a really good point that people don't realize that, if you go to a professional, which of course we strongly suggest and recommend, you very well may think you're coming in to get an adjustment, and a chiropractor should be able to do an assessment and say, yeah, well, I might need to do something a little bit different or create a different type of a plan.
Yeah. And my favorite visits, my proudest moments are the ones where I don't even have to lay a hand on a patient. I just have them, we walk through some different stuff and get them feeling better on their own. And that is an incredible sense of empowerment for somebody, knowing that they had a lot of pain. They did something just with a little bit of guidance that got them out of pain. I think that's incredibly empowering, instead of them thinking they have to come in to me, every time they're reliant on my hands.
Yeah.
It's just building confident people.
Yeah. And then Dr. Jablonka, I know that's something that you brought up in your podcast and some of the other conversations that we had where, as far as like helping a patient really not have to see you, I think is something that people don't realize. Like when you go and see an expert, their job is not to continue the treatment forever and ever. It really should be to try to help you overcome it and then be able to like get to a point where your body's moving the right way.
Absolutely. The goal is to help you treat yourself. If I can do that, or at least if I can help you do that, then that's a win across the board. So I think it's when people come to see individuals like myself, like Dr. Sankey, and they realize that we're not here to waste their time or give them some just, the feel-good medicine, but truly help them, and how fast we're able to help them. I think that helps them buy into the movement, almost like a movement protocol, and how we assess, how we treat, how, least invasive possible before we move on to the more aggressive approaches. So I think it's when they feel that and they realize that we're on their side and we're working with them, then they realize that the benefit of these kind of treatments and these kind of approaches is exponentially better than anything they've ever had. And then from there, down the road, when they have pain again, guess who they're going to come back and see? They're going to see us again. Why? Because we actually care. We hone our craft, and we want to help you get out of pain again quicker.
Yeah. All right. Great answer. All right. So John, hopefully that answered the question of, I think the highlight is certainly ask about the techniques, research, but generally just an open dialogue with who you're seeing. You'll be able to get the right plan. All right. So Melissa from Raleigh says, as experts, what's your go-to methods for fast recovery after strenuous physical activity? Dr. Jablonka, I'm going to start with you because I know we just dropped your most recent Move More podcast. And I will tell you, one of them recently also created quite the stir on social media.
I'm sure I create a stir, and that's fine with me. But honestly, my go-to, if I had one go-to, and the easiest one is hydration for one, and sleep. Those are my best recoveries. Those are tried and true. And look at the research and look at anybody who you talk to. Proper hydration, adequate amounts of sleep is going to be your best recovery. If you have to have anything on top of that, in my experience, sports massage, formal sports massage, if you can afford it, if you can swing it, or if you have access to somebody that does formal sports massage, that's going to be your next best option, in my opinion. And if you don't have that, I've got a set at my clinic right now, the Normatec compression boots. I'm a fan of those. I didn't think I would be such a fan, but I'm a fan. And after talking to a lot of my athletes, after a lot of their hard workouts, heavy lifts, that's been a gold standard for them as far as what they like to do post-recovery. But in my opinion, nothing really beats proper hydration, nutrition as well, and sleep. Those are my go-tos.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Sankey?
I spent my lunch hour in my Normatec boots out in the clinic. So yeah, I'm a fan. But yeah, I mean, exactly. Eat, sleep, and drink, especially with the running community. Eating is extremely important. Some runners think lighter is better, but you really need to replenish those calories. The gadgets and gizmos come secondary after eat, sleep, drink, and then obviously I'm right with you on the sports massage as well.
Yeah, those Normatec compression sleeves are a huge hit. I will tell you, we've got a gentleman, one of our newest Omega Sports ambassador. His name is Coach King. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll see Coach King. He's, what is he, like 6'10"? He's this huge guy, massive guy, as sweet as can be, and has just absolutely the triangle here. Our community just has fallen in love with him. He is going to run the New York City Marathon, and he's in our North Hills, Raleigh location. He works around the corner, and every time he runs 10 miles, and then he comes in to our North Hills location to do the Normatec compression sleeves. Now, I would love to say we have those compression sleeves in all of our stores. So if you're sitting here going, I'm going to go to my Omega Sports store right now, just give it a few more months. We might get them into more stores, but right now we've got only select stores that are doing it. But they have been a hit. I've actually been to, we have a partnership with USTA. We went to a huge tennis tournament and we brought them, and people love them. It's not just a gimmick.
No, it's not a gimmick. Actually do something. It makes you feel a whole lot better.
Yeah. All right. So Melissa, you're in North Hills. I mean, you're in Raleigh, so you're not far from North Hills. So if you want to try what they're talking about, you just slip them on. We clean them. We make sure that they're sanitary. Super easy. They go over your pants or whatever, your leg, and you can try them out. And then if you don't want to spring for, like these guys can get the whole sleeve. If you want just a little bit of it, there's other Normatec products that can help as well. All right, let's move on to the next question. Dax from Raleigh, another Raleigh. Oh, I'm sorry. Mark from High Point is the next one. All right. I continue to suffer from hamstring strains. Are they avoidable, and how can I heal them quickly? Now, this may sound very similar to the last question, but let's talk specifically, Dr. Jablonka, about the hamstring strain.
Yeah, hamstring strains. Typically, you're going to find them in highly explosive motions. Really, usually, sprinting. Sprinting is going to be pretty much your number one area that you're going to have these hamstring strains. Now, if you have them chronically, or you continue to have them, then you have a loading issue, in which case your body cannot handle the loads placed upon that. So are they avoidable for you? They can be. Answer is they can be, but for you, until you really address the issue, which is likely. So what is the integrity of your hamstring tissue? If it's been injured a lot, the integrity might be quite poor, in which case we need to address that. Some soft tissue work, sure, stretches, and we need to load it. We're going to look at your glute strength, core strength. If you can define the core, which is a lot more than people think, we're going to look at from core all the way to the extremities. Glute strength, hamstring strength, and stability throughout the entire kinetic chain. So can they be avoided? Yes, they can be avoided with certain things, and we have tools to help you out. I'm a huge fan of the electrode dry needling when it comes to the hamstring strains, and there are certain things I like to do, like Nordic hamstring curls, which are nuts if you are advanced enough to do that. But that is certainly not for everybody, and that's kind of a crazy thing to do. But there are better things to do when it comes to the hamstring loading response. But for you really need to find somebody that knows what they're doing and knowing what to look for. So to give you a specific answer to your question, but I can't really do that until I see you. All right. And once we do that, we can develop a plan together to kind of knock that out.
Yeah. Well, I see that Dr. Sankey would love to try that. What is it? The Nordic?
The Nordic hamstring
Yeah, I had
curl,
a visceral reaction to
Yeah.
right?
that.
All right. So Dr. Sankey, any advice for Mark?
Yeah, I mean, the greatest predictor of injury is previous injury. So if you've had it, especially with hamstrings, and oftentimes that'll bum people out, but it can kind of be a good piece of information to have, because if you've had previous injury, well, then let's see what we can do to bulletproof you against future injury. It's exactly what Dr. Scott said. It's going to be improving mobility, improving stability through the core, and then building up the strength of the hamstring so you can tolerate, whatever kind of demands you're wanting to put on it in the future. We see hamstring injuries all the time, and I kind of jokingly refer to them as like the mid-30s softball league injury, because you don't warm up, right? You've been sitting at the desk all day, and then you go and try to sprint around the bases, and you pull your hamstring, and it's kind of a bummer, and it takes you out of stuff you love. But yeah, they can be treated.
Yeah, I do want to also let you know that we had previously, we're going to play a video that Dr. Sankey made of what we call desk neck, where you're sitting too stationary for a long time and what to do. We're going to put that in the show notes in the blog that we do with this show. So don't worry, we'll have that. And of course, we've got a sizzle reel for Carolina Movement Doc as well that we'll add in there. So for folks that may think, hey, I thought we may have said that we'd play some videos, we will. They'll just be on the actual show notes. Because the one that you just talked about, that's a big deal for folks that sit there at a computer all day long, and then all of a sudden they go be active and they don't realize that there's a lot of prep that they need to think about. All right, let's go to the next question. So is it Dax now? Dax from Raleigh. I played baseball through school and college and ended up having to, I'm waiting for it to scroll through, Tommy John surgery. My son plays and I want to help him avoid this. Is this even possible? What should he do? Dr. Jablonka.
I'm going to lead with, if your son's playing baseball, one, be mindful of how many leagues you sign him up for. So I'm a huge proponent of implementing what's called a pitch count. So if you're playing in 3 different teams, you have to keep your own pitch count, because if you're overloading that inside elbow issue and you don't have the proper mobility to your shoulder, then you're going to put a lot of stress on the inside of the elbow. And that's why we're seeing a lot of different Tommy John surgeries at younger athletes, because we're kind of overloading. We're specializing these kids into baseball, loading that inside elbow way too much, and then it's created a laxity and ruptures in the UCL. So if you can avoid it, the best thing that you can do is keep tabs on your son as far as how many throws per game he has, and you need to keep that pitch count yourself. Beyond that, proper loading is going to be the name of the game here. All right, we're talking forearm. We need more external rotation of that shoulder joint just to make sure that you're not placing a lot of stress on the inside elbow. And we have to make sure that your scapulohumeral rhythm is on point. What do I mean by that? Your shoulder blade to your arm. Is that strong enough? And I'll tell you right now, with the developing athlete, especially the adolescent, personally, I call it giant adolescent syndrome, where their skeletal system can't even keep up, or I'm sorry, their muscular system can't keep up with their skeletal system. So they have this general laxity. And if you're constantly loading the arm and the shoulder joint tons and tons of times per day in a body that's not fully developed, you're just asking for something to break down. So to keep a close eye on your son is probably going to be the best thing to do in this case, man.
Yeah. And it sounds like whether it's your son or your daughter playing softball or whatever sport, that sounds like good advice. Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Sankey, can we talk a little about what Tommy John surgery is really for? I know I had to Google it and I realized it's not an underwear surgery.
No, it's not. So yeah, Tommy John surgery is for a ligament in your elbow called a UCL. It sits right there, crosses the elbow joint, and that's a commonly stressed injury in baseball. And like Dr. Scott said, if you lack mobility in certain other areas, you can overstress that ligament. You can also overstress it just by overloading it. And especially with young athletes, and again, Dr. Scott touched on this. Early specialization is a problem, where parents are putting their kids into a lot of different leagues and they're only playing one sport, and the intentions are really good, and I know I want the best for my kids, so I want to push them, but having year-round baseball can be too much, and some of the best orthopedic surgeons in the world will agree that have your kid play other sports, right? Have baseball for a season, but make sure they're playing other sports so they're not continuously doing the same motion over and over, potentially exposing themselves to kind of these potential surgeries. But, stuff happens. So luckily there are good rehab professionals out there that can help them.
That's right. That's right. So it's not the end of the world, but obviously if you're trying to be a parent that's cautious and considerate to not having them go through and repeat what you went through, then yes, I love that advice. Like, diversify it up, give them more sports to play, rest when possible. Don't overload them. Don't play, you don't have to play every single league, every single game that's out there. Sounds like solid advice. All right, let's go to Sarah in Raleigh, and we've got 2 more questions to go. So Sarah in Raleigh says, as we get older, what's the best way to prevent unnecessary ailments like arthritis or other joint pains? Let's start with Dr. Sankey.
Well, we talked about it earlier in the show. Motion is lotion. So, the more that's right. The more that you can just be moving, getting that synovial fluid within your joints, all the way around the joint, different movement, movements that you enjoy. That's the best thing to be doing. Sure, there are supplements out there and all this stuff that you can rub on your joints, and I don't know, take it with a grain of salt, whatever. But the more that you can just move and do those, quote, little things, which aren't so little, like sleeping well and eating healthy and staying hydrated. I mean, your synovial joints are like 75% water. And if you're dehydrated, not only are like you going to be dehydrated, but your joints are going to be dehydrated too. So just taking care of yourself like that. That's a great question to be asking, because we should be thinking about this stuff right now. We should be thinking, okay, I'm not always going to feel like I'm 25 or 35. I'm going to get older. So make sure you're doing the right things now.
Yeah. And of course, I saw Scott go, across his chest, that move emblem that you have, of course, Carolina Movement Doc. Obviously, you're going to preach the same thing, but I'm going to throw a question on top of this. Yep. Like, what if you feel like you're too old to do that? Like, is there an age cutoff where it's just like, you can't do it anymore? You're out of luck?
Nope. Age and decrepitude are not synonymous. That's a crappy way to think about. So if you think you're too old to do something, you got to change your mindset. I did a podcast with Thomas Clark. He's 50 years old. He can lift a Buick if you wanted to. He can sprint faster than me any day of the week. So, age is only what you make of it. For me, I still feel like I'm 18. I still try to move like I'm 18. I plan to do that because I just want to be fit as long as possible. So the goal is to really to die as young as old as possible. It's kind of weird to say, but it's what we should be thinking. So if you're trying to avoid arthritis, it's kind of weird to say, arthritis is joint inflammation. Introduce me to somebody that doesn't have any type of joint inflammation. I'd like to shake their hand. It's a debilitating term, which we shouldn't be debilitated from. It responds really well to everything that Dr. Clay just said, as far as motion is lotion. Our synovial joints love that stuff. So I'm just going to really reiterate exactly what Dr. Clay Sankey just said, because he hit the nail on the head. There's no better way to say that.
Motion is lotion. I need to just figure out who owns
the shirts, baby. Make some shirts.
I'm gonna trademark that. All right. Well, so last question, and this is obviously I always save these ones for the end. And I think it'll be fun to just kind of riff on this a little bit. Running versus weightlifting, which is better? What say you, Dr. Sankey?
Well, obviously, no. First of all, and this is going to be the boring answer, whichever one you really like to do and is going to get you out of bed in the morning and get you moving, that's going to be the best thing. So don't, some people think, I need to be running more. It's like, why? I mean, you don't. You need to be just doing something more. So obviously for me, like if I were to choose, running. But if I'm going to be objective about it and say, if I have to choose one to do that's going to give me the best longevity over my life, it's actually going to be weightlifting, right? So obviously cardiovascular activity is important. It's important to have, aerobic stress on the body, but you can get that through weightlifting, actually. CrossFit has shown that, and strength is just that important. So I'm gonna say weightlifting.
Wow. Let's see if we can flip. Let's see if we can flip Dr. Jablonka. Probably.
Not gonna flip me. Stronger people are hard to kill and generally more useful. And stronger people actually make better runners. And if again, and Dr. Clay Sankey hit it again. If we're going to look at it objectively, the stronger runners are the more fit runners as well. So somebody that does running 100% of the time, they're not going to be as kind of well equipped from a longevity standpoint as somebody who does, or at least supplements with strength training. Now, I am clearly going to bias myself on the side of strength training, weightlifting, but I also supplement my weight training with running because it's a different stimulus. I actually enjoy both. I just kind of prefer the weight training only because it's, easier, more accessible to me. And I like it a little bit more. So yeah, I enjoy it more when I'm lifting heavy stuff. I feel stronger when I'm lifting heavy stuff. But which one's better? Man, again, whatever one makes you happy, whatever makes you smile, whatever gets those endorphins going, whatever kind of creates that stimulus that you're looking for and stops you from falling into that downward spiral of decrepitude. So whatever kind of gets your juices flowing, stick with that, knowing that that's okay. But hopefully you're lifting something too.
Yeah. And look up Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was one of our best U.S. marathon runners who ran like a 2:04 marathon or something like that. And he can now deadlift. Last time I checked, it was over 400 pounds, which is just a crazy flip to be able to have like that kind of slow twitch muscle fibers and then be able to completely change the game and go into lifting heavy. So you don't have to choose one or the other. You can do well in both.
Why not both?
And when we're talking about strength training, it doesn't mean that you have to go 400 pounds. I mean, it really is more about just, putting, weight in front of you that is pushing your muscles in a different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised. I actually like that you guys had that answer, because now that's just going to dive us even more into Omega Sports, where we're never going to be out of running. So that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So no one needs to worry. We're going to always have great running shoes. But I do think that as we continue to keep the dialogue on moving more at Omega Sports, weight training and strength conditioning is going to continue to keep playing a big, big factor. Right? We saw it during COVID, where during last year, we were supplying people with all their running needs, but they wanted more. They needed to get into the gyms and they couldn't, and we need to be able to supply that for them. So your both of your answers help me with some things that we have planned.
I love it. I love everything that you're doing, Del. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep expanding this brand. I'll get people moving more often. Just get them off the couch. This pandemic sucks. We need to combat this with motion, baby.
That's right. Motion is lotion.
Amen.
All right, guys. I know you guys are busy. I appreciate you taking an hour to do the show with us today. We, again, will have some extra videos that will drop into the actual show notes. As you know, we do show notes every time we do this show. So it lives on Google. Everyone can search it and find the great information that you guys were able to share today. I appreciate you both. Let's just do a quick little recap. Dr. Clay Sankey with TruMotion Therapy. You can follow him on Instagram at TruMotion Therapy. I got Lisa Keller over here. I agree. A combo of running and stretch is ideal. Lisa, of course, one of our superstars from one of our most recent podcasts. Definitely check out the Women's Only podcast. She was featured as one of our highlighted guests. Thank you, Lisa, for watching. And then, of course, you can go to TruMotionTherapy.com to find more about Clay and his team there in Charlotte. And then, of course, we want to also make sure that you're following our good friend, Dr. Scott Jablonka at Carolina Movement Doc. That's Carolina_movement_doc. Great information on both of those pages. And then, of course, don't miss a podcast. Make sure you're getting those alerts. We've got Scott as our host of the Omega Sports Move More podcast. You can always go to podcast.omegasports.com or just go right into iTunes, go right into Spotify and type in Move More or Omega Sports Move More, and you'll find, or just Scott Jablonka. Maybe that'll find too. All right, you guys have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Del. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, a great informative show. I hope you guys enjoy. Great Mega Wellness experts. We will continue to keep expanding, but I'm telling you, we are so lucky to be able to work with two great Mega Wellness partners from TruMotion, Dr. Clay Sankey, I'm getting confused, and from Carolina Movement Doc, Dr. Scott Jablonka. Two great ones that I really hope that you follow. You probably will see them in our emails. You'll see them on our playmore.omegasports.com content studio. And then, of course, more podcasts, more shows, more fun things to come. You guys have a great weekend.